Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtotter the Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtotter the Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Isopanisad Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 15th day of December 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Sri Isopanisad, translation commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are finishing up mantra 9 today. Andantamak pravishanti ye vidyamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha andantamak pravishanti ye vidyamupasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo ya uvidyayam rataha andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yahu vidyayam rataha Andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yehu vidyayam taha. Andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yehu vidyayam taha. Go ahead, Darshan. You're on. Andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yehu vidyayam taha. Andang tamak pravishanti ye vidyam upasate tato bhuya ivate tamo yehu vidyayam taha. All right, so I'm going to just read the translation and then move to the part of the purport that we're in. Those who engage in the culture of, translation, those who engage in the culture of Nishan activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. So Prabhupada talks a lot here about how those who are engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge, they misguide others because they think they have knowledge, but they don't. Okay, then the paragraph beginning, according to the Bhagavad Gita, 242 and 715, mistaken mundane educators are known as Veda Vada Rata and Maya Parita Jnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Veda Vada Rata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature. But unfortunately, they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Veda Vada Rata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven. As stated in Mantra 1, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of necessities of life. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being. And this same purpose is presented in various ways in the different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. That's the ultimate purpose of all religions, is to bring one back to Godhead. But the Veda Vada Rata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for a layman. The Veda Vadaratas give their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers or acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as the leading exponent of Vedic knowledge. Such Veda Vadaratas are especially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words, Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya. And Rata means those engaged. Vidyayam Rataha means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the acharyas. Such Veda Vadaratas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master in order to understand the transcendental message of the Vedas. That is the direction of the Mundaka Upanishad 1-12. These Vedavada people, however, have their own acharyas who are not in the chain of disciplic succession, of transcendental succession. Thus they progress into the darkest region of ignorance by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. They fall even further into ignorance than those who have no knowledge of the Vedas at all. The Maya Parita Jnana class of men are self-made gods, so-called gods. Such men think that they themselves are God, and that there is no need of worshipping any other god. They will agree to worship an ordinary man if he happens to be rich, but they will never worship the personality of Godhead. Such men, unable to recognize their own foolishness, never consider how it is that God can be entrapped by Maya. They consider how it is that God can be entrapped in Maya, his own illusory energy. If God were ever entrapped by Maya, Maya would be more powerful than God. Such men say that God is all-powerful, but they do not consider that if he is all-powerful, there is no possibility of his being overpowered by Maya. These self-made gods cannot answer all these questions very clearly. They are simply satisfied to have become God themselves. Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unminatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, this verse and purport deals with a very important topic, which we often don't think about, but which underlies our entire practice, our entire movement. And that is, what is a reliable source of knowledge? And who is it that is actually embodying that knowledge and that can give us direction based on that knowledge? This is the foundation of the whole practice of yoga in this world, of real dharma, of everything. And that's why when Jiva Goswami began writing his Shat Sandarbhas, Shat means 6, Sandarbhas means philosophical treatise. These 6 philosophical treatises, which really provide a tremendous foundation for the philosophy of this movement. It codified everything that Lord Chaitanya taught and the 6 Goswamis and everything, these Shat Sandarbhas. So I had the good fortune to work on the Tattva Sandarbha for some months. This is a whole history I won't get into, but back in 93, 94, Gopiparanadhara and I, Prabhu, were helping some other devotees put out the book. It never actually was published by the BBT, but that's another story. But it's very systematically organized, and the first thing he does in that book, practically the whole Tattva Sandarbha, is establishing the authority of the Srimad Bhagavatam as the ultimate reliable pramana for knowledge that really counts, which is the knowledge of who we are, who is God, what is this world, what is the relationship, and how could we come to know that relationship again. So that's called epistemology. How do we know what we know? There's a certain field of philosophy. How do we know what we think we know? In other words, oftentimes, vast majority of people make a big mistake. What's the main mistake? They think they're the body, right? That's the first left turn they make, and often to illusion and ignorance and suffering. So, why is that mistake made? Because that's what's presented to us. In other words, we have no source, no way of penetrating the limitations of our mind and senses to reach knowledge of what is beyond. And therefore, there's a large number of people, especially in this age, who think there is nothing beyond. It's simply the material energy. And our scientific efforts of plumbing the depths and building up this huge mountain of scientific knowledge, that's all there is. And that's, you guys are just in fantasy world. Therefore, how can we break out of that type, what do you say, straitjacket? That's where the disciplic succession comes in. The chain of realized souls who have penetrated. That's why it's always said, what is that verse in Bhagavad Gita 4:34? Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seveya upidekshanti te jnanam Jnananas tattvadarshinaha. Tattvadarshina is plural. It means those who have seen the truth beyond the curtain of Maya, as Kunti Devi so graphically says, Maya javanikachanam. And javanikachanam is a curtain, an iron curtain, impenetrable. You're unseen by the vast mass of people because you're covered by your curtain of Maya. There's a creation which Krishna himself has created. For those who don't want to know him, then he creates the illusion that he doesn't exist. So the Tattvadarshis have penetrated that, or more precisely, it's been lifted by Krishna because of their loving devotion. And there's a disciplic succession, the parampara, which is very important, of realized souls who are following the Shastra, which has been laid down by other realized souls, and by Krishna himself in the form of Bhagavad Gita. And don't forget, Srila Vyasadeva, the author of all these Puranas, the Vedanta Sutra and the Vedas, he's also an incarnation of Krishna. Yes. So, the source of knowledge beyond the range of the limited senses and mind is twofold. The revealed scripture and the realized souls, who by their purity, it's all been revealed to them. And out of their compassion, they come amongst us, blind souls. That's why it's undam. Undam means blind, gross ignorance. You see? The first verse of the word of the verse we chanted. So what do we say? Oma jnana timirandasya. Notice the same word. I was born into the darkness of ignorance. The greatest ignorance. I think that's the translation we have. Ajnana means ignorance. Timira, darkness. Andasya. I've been blinded by the darkness of ignorance. But my spiritual master, now the translation we have, the torchlight of knowledge, which Prabhupada gave us. But another understanding, meaning is, as he's explained elsewhere, Timiranas Gyananjana. Gyananjana is the ointment of knowledge, you see? Shalakya, an instrument. He's applied this instrument to our eyes, the salve, the medicine of knowledge to enlighten us so that we can see. Open up our eyes to the truth of what lies beyond the curtain of Maya, of this material energy. Jnananjana Shalakya, Chakshu Unmilitam. And this way he's opened my eyes. Chakshu Unmilitam means open, eyes are open. Chakshu's eyes open is Unmilitam. Chakshu Unmilitam, Oma Jnana Timirandasya Jnanana Shalakya, Chakshu Unmilitam, Yena, by him, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my obeisance to such a guru. And that recognition of our gross ignorance, of our helplessness without we're on Text-9. Do you want to know where he is? Oh, you want to see it? You can't let him see it? The verse? Oh. All right, I can't help you. You have it. Let him see. So you can be. Text-9 of the Isopanisad. Have that so we can catch up. You got it? Okay. Yeah, we started in the paragraph beginning according to the Bhagavad Gita. It's about midway through the purport. I'm trying to review here. So we chant every day. This is such an important verse. Prabhupada included it in the prayers of to the Mangalacharan prayers in your songbook. So, recognizing our need for this knowledge, because any material knowledge we have only gives us the illusion of solving problems. Right? Our main problem, birth, old age, disease, and death, well, we can't solve that one, so we'll put it aside. And we'll solve all kinds of other subsidiary problems. But that's the main problem. Whatever you try to achieve in this life, money, fame, relationships, happiness, whatever, some position, it's all just ephemeral. It's just like the will of the wisp. It's like a mirage. This is often given. Mriga Trishni, Mriga Trishni is that which the animals thirst after. Animal in the desert, usually like the deer is given, he's thirsty, and there's a mirage, runs out in the desert and dies. It's all an illusion, because it's all bound by time. We are permanent, we're eternal, we're certainly looking for steady happiness, right? This is the great frustration, right? We work hard, and then we get some satisfaction. Okay, I got a roof over my head, got a nice wife, this and that, everything's good, you know. But we forget how temporary it is. If you just open your eyes and you see, right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam, second canto, where it kind of starts again, you know. And Parikshit asks this question, what should one think about? What should one, you know, meditate on at the time of death? Because he's about to die in 7 days. He's let that curse stand, and the curse is a good curse. It's given by a Brahmin. He's going to be killed by some snake bite. So he says, he accepts it. Okay, you know, I know I'm not going to die. Nobody dies, you know. But now on this whole huge change from being the emperor of the world, then he takes off the robes, put on a simple kopan, you know, and sits down by the Ganges to die and waits for what's going to happen. And all, you know, this is a very dramatic turn. He's a pure devotee. He's a descendant of the Pandavas. And so they all come from around the world. Vyasadeva is there, Narada Muni is there. And then finally Shukadeva Goswami comes and sits down on the seat. You know, this seat we take for granted, but it's an important thing. Who sits on the seat? To speak, you know, the conclusion, to speak what he heard from his father, Vyasadeva, namely the Bhagavatam, which is Nigamakalpatadogalitam palam. It is the ripened fruit of all the Vedic knowledge. It's all you need. What is the use of any other scripture? In other words, if you're going to have 7 days to live, listen to the Bhagavatam. You know. So after sitting there, you know, then the key is it works with question and answer. So his question is, well, where should I place my mind now? You know, everyone knows in the Vedic culture the state of your mind is what's going to determine your next birth. So then Shukadeva describes basically Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavyak Kirtitavyascha Smartavyak Chechita Bhayam. If you want fearlessness at that time of death, here's what you have to do. Oh, Bharata. Bharata means great descendant of King Bharat. You know, Arjuna is also a Bharata. Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari. He gives 4 definitions of your object of meditation. Sarvatma, the soul of all, the super soul. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, Hari, Krishna. In other words, there's no doubt you should think of it. What should you do? Smartavya. Shrotavya, excuse me. Hear about him. I'm going to speak about him. You just listen, which is what he did. And you chant. You repeat it. Hearing and chanting and remembering. That's the whole program. You know, is that you become absorbed in Krishna, and that's what your mind should be filled with when you leave the body. There's the whole program right there, right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam. After the introduction of how it came to be in the first canto, which is full of important instruction. But we have this little this important lesson. So that's what we've been given. This is you know, how do we know that this is, you know, what we should do? Most people say, well, it's Indian language, I can't understand that. You know, I got my own religion, goodbye. I mean, 99% of people think like that. Although many people are open, you know, there's some, that's why we're sitting here. So, how do we know? Because it's coming from the parampara. We have been, it's always a personal thing. This is a personal philosophy. You meet somebody who has that, you know, aura of truth, whose life matches up with what they're telling you, who have a certain bliss, knowledge, whatever it may be, you know. They've got something you don't got, and so you're ready to hear. And then you learn, oh, there's a whole line of realized souls going back. I read this biography of Narottam Das Thakur recently. Did you seen it? You have it? I mean, it's like a life changer. It's such a wonderful book. And it was written by this lady named Shitala, who used to live here before any of you were here. Harisari and her lived here for a year, working with Back to Godhead, back in 1990, I think it was, 91. Yeah, I think going to Thai. I think she's known for that. Anyway, it's just incredible, you know, seeing the life of this great soul. I mean, there's various miracles, which I won't get into right now. But the whole point that I wanted to make is that you know, when people met him, he transformed them just by meeting him, just like, you know, Prabhupada, any of these great souls. He had the aura, you know, the bliss, the unconcern, the like being transcendental to all of the disturbances in the material world. And of course, he was in a culture that revered people like that, which is special. But the point is that personal contact is important. They embody the scripture, and they have a quality that is attractive to anybody who's a little, has any kind of pious credit in the back. Or the demons, they feel threatened. And so there's always a battle between the demons and the devotees. But what I'm saying is how to establish that openness to hearing knowledge and things that's beyond our ken, beyond the limits of our senses. And that's what's mentioned here, just to go back to those who cultivate, worship ignorance, avidyam upasate, they worship nescience. And there's plenty of people around here, remember, we got to broaden our scope for what we take in, what the essence of worship is. To meditate on, to respect, to give money to. This whole political thing is a perverted form of worship. You give with the aim of getting something back. That kind of worship is there in the Vedas too. So-called knowers of the Vedas, they think that all there is is the flowery language of the Karmakanda section. That's right in the Gita. Yami mam pushpitam vacham prabhadantya vipashchita Veda Vararata Partananyanasti Divarana. Prabhupada used that Veda Vararata phrase about 10 times in the part of the purport we just read. Veda Vararata. I noticed that it's this idiom of the word vrata is going to come up again in text 12 in a few verses. And so worshipping the so-called Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is cultivating so-called knowledge. And Prabhupada has a little different wording, but the idea is it looks like the same thing, right? You're reading, I'm reading. You're chanting, I'm chanting. But that the motive behind your chanting and the mantras that you're chanting are completely different. That's Veda Vararata. That's the Karmakanda. I'll tell you a vignette that Radhanath Swami told me one time. I think we were in Mayapur. He told me this. And at a certain point, he was considering writing his biography. This Journey Home book that's become so famous. I don't know if you read it. Everyone's read it. And I was in Mayapur, and we went on a little walk. He wanted to know, what do you think about my writing it, I said, yeah, you should do it, Maharaj, because I knew some of the adventures. But I think it was in that context, he told me that he was in Delhi one time. This was before he joined the movement. And he was, he'd come to India, and he practiced serious yoga and meditation. You know the story better than me. So he came down to Delhi. He was in a big park or something, and he was just looking. He felt that he was still searching, even though he had become a serious yogi. And so he's there in the park, and he saw this whole family engaged in serious worship. There was so much emotion. There were tears coming. They had a little altar set up there, right in the park. And so he kind of watched. He stayed a little distance and watched the whole thing, and he was very moved. And so then he asked the head of the family there, well, what were you doing? Who were you worshiping? What were you chanting? And so forth. And he said, oh yes. We're starting a business, and we felt we had to really, really pray to Chandi or someone like the Ganesh, maybe it was. And so they were, from the bottom of their heart, they were just praying for the success of the business. Now, it's material. They have faith. And maybe it will prosper because of that. Ganesh can help me on it. But it's not what we're looking for. That's Karmakanda. That's Karmakanda. Sincere, serious worship and setting up these sacrifices, paying the Brahmins, spending thousands and millions of dollars, who knows how much, what the hell they do it. For the purpose of going to heaven and living there for millions of years. Because there's so much pushpatavacha, there's so many flowery language in the Vedas. I haven't read it. There's some of that in the Bhagavatam, describing especially, believe it or not, the subterranean heavenly planets. But in the Bhagavatam, you read a few more verses and said, no, this is not for the devotees. And ultimately you die there, and it's a hell, it's subterranean. Anyway, how do we find our way through this morass, or this jungle, really, of so-called knowledge? And you have adherents to so many of them. Very eloquent, very good writers who are total atheists, writing books, getting on TV, radio, propagating that, convincing people, innocent people. So that's what's mentioned here. Prabhupada we need to, and we're so fortunate we have that in Prabhupada. And you find, we just celebrated Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's disappearance day. He was a warrior in that regard. In India, there's all kinds of deviations. And we've heard several times already. Last night we heard also about how during Bhaktisiddhanta's day, he followed Bhakti Vinod Thakur, resurrected Chaitanya Vaishnavism, Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because like anything else, as Krishna says in the Gita, by the force of time, the science becomes lost. So by the force of time, all of the serious philosophy and the restrictions and how strict it is to be a genuine Vaishnav, that was kind of poo-pooed, and we just want to do the kirtan, kirtan only, and there's even the owls and the bowels. The bowels are very good musicians, they're known for it, singers. I swear to God, I saw them in Carnegie Hall. This is when I was a kid. Somebody had paid to bring them all over because they were impressed with their musicianship, I didn't know what they were singing, but it was nice music. But that's all, that's they're an upasampradaya, an offshoot that's unbona fide, that misguides innocent people. This is what it is. And there's like 12 different ones, varieties. Prakrita Sahajiyas are the most famous. Prakrita Sahajiyas, the word Sahajiya means, take it easy. What is this, 4 rags and all this stuff, Easy. It's easy. Prakrita means materialistic. They basically want to imitate Krishna. And Radha and Krishna, just do that. And since they're not getting the mercy of Krishna, they're not getting the detachment, there's all kinds of illicit activities going on. But they become very famous. It's easy for people to become attracted to that. Rather than, are you kidding, ISKCON? Those 4 regular principles? I'm practicing 2 regular principles. What's that, Anyway. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur faced. And he worked like anything. He didn't have an organization. He was a magistrate. He had 10 kids, and everything. But he wrote all these books, and he worked as hard as he could. He found the Yoga Pit. He raised money, put the temple up. But as mentioned, he prayed for someone to carry it on. The ray of Vishnu and Bhaktisiddhanta came. And so much of his preaching was battling against the caste Brahmanism and all of the misconceptions that people had. He was a warrior in that, and it was dangerous. It threatened threats to his life. There was assassination attempts and everything. Prabhupada faced that too. So those who are propagating so-called knowledge are more dangerous than those who are obviously ignorant and don't know anything. That's what this verse is about. And we read, they're completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. Now, one thing you want to watch, just when you read Prabhupada's books, is this word purpose. Well, I know what a purpose is. That's pretty good. But Prabhupada would sometimes use the word purpose to mean purport. Yes, it means meaning. It's there in the Oxford English Dictionary. And so you have to watch that. But it's obvious, here, the purpose of the Vedas, and he quotes 15:15, where it says, Vedaischa sarvar ahameva vedya. Krishna is saying, this is a very important line. Vedaischa sarvar ahameva vedya. The meaning, Balaram? Vedaischa sarvar ahameva vedya. No. No. From all the Vedas I am to be known. The purpose of the Vedas is to reveal me, is to. And so, if you think the purpose of the Vedas is to go to heaven, you're a Vedavadarata, a so-called knower of the Vedas. And of course, this was the advantage of coming to America. I wanted to mention this. In India, Prabhupada tried like anything to start the movement there. And, by Krishna's grace, I often thank his wife, Radharani, I think her name was Radharani, who didn't help him in the preaching and sold his Bhagavatam for tea biscuits or whatever it was. Because she, helped Prabhupada get out and take sannyas and come to America. And then the other thing is, India, he had a place. He had the League of Devotees started. He had that, what was the name of the city? Jhansi. Somehow he got a building. He didn't own it, but they let him use it. And he was preaching. He had people going out on Harinam and everything. And then the ladies' auxiliary, like some feminists, the governor's wife wanted to use the building for some ladies' program, And Swamiji couldn't stay. He tried like anything to stay in there. Ended up homeless, no money, went to Vrindavan, like that. And it's a tremendous story. But the point is, India wasn't ready for Prabhupada. They already so-called knew Veda Vadarata. They thought they knew what Vaishnavism was. And they weren't ready to take Bhagavad Gita as it is, worship only Krishna, and give up all material motivation. Are you kidding? It wasn't possible. So he came to, he kind of threw the Hail Mary, he did the Hail Mary, the last step. He came all the way to New York, and, with his books, he had the books, real knowledge. We're talking about knowledge here. And he knew that, if it got in the right hands, there were souls who were open to it, because they didn't think they knew anything about Krishna. There were a certain number, they may have been half crazed on drugs, whatever it was, but they were open. They were receptive to Prabhupada, and they respected Prabhupada as a great saint and guru, And that was the key. That's the whole point. Is that when you find the person and the genuine scripture, this is our window to the transcendence, is the personality of the guru who embodies the Shastra. That's the definition of Acharya. The Acharya comes from the word Achar, which means behavior. He knows the Vedas, he knows the essence of the Vedas, Bhagavatam, lives it, and teaches. And that's where we have our little motto, which is, it may evolve a little bit. Learn it, live it, and give it. That's the Acharya principle. And so Prabhupada was a personification of the Acharya. And because of who he was and his knowledge and what he was giving, the Hare Krishna mantra, he was giving immediate experience. If you're ready to, suspend your disbelief, and then take part in the kirtan, immediately you experience something. Right? If you're a little open to hearing and chanting, there's something there, which is good because it brings you back again to hear. Or maybe, I'll get the book, let me read it. And you're off and running, you see? And you're genuinely exposed to real knowledge. So this was, the essence of Prabhupada's whole movement is that. Print books, distribute books. Why? Because the knowledge is there, and not only the knowledge, but it's given by the pure devotee, and therefore it has potency, even if imperfectly composed. What's that verse? We should all know it. Tad bhagvasargo janataga viplavo yasmin pati shlokam abandhavatyapi namanyanantasya shankitanaya shinvanti gayanti gunanti sarava. So this is an important verse. Prabhupada, I'm hearing lectures on this part of the Bhagavatam, and this is Narada Muni's encouraging Vyasadeva to write the Bhagavatam. So the first verse instruction, he says, all these Vedas, he's speaking strongly, kind of, not metaphorically, well, he's speaking metaphorically, but he's speaking like a guru, kind of, chastising. So the first instruction is, I know you already wrote the Vedanta Sutra and all the other Puranas and the four Vedas and the Mahabharata, but and he's saying that language, that literary creation, which may be very nicely composed, but it doesn't glorify Hari, it's like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. What are you saying? Mahabharata is a place of, he's drawing a very deep contrast. I'm just hearing Prabhupada describe it like that today, or yesterday on a lecture. But the point is, time is short, Narada Muni comes and he goes, right? So he's got to impart this inspiration to Vyasadeva to meditate, realize Krishna, and write Bhagavatam. So anyway, that verse is, brings you up short. Any literary creation, or now we have electronic creation, which doesn't glorify the Lord, but may be very attractive materially, is like a place of pilgrimage. It's a garbage heap. You're contaminating your mind and poisoning your mind by consuming it. On the other hand, Prabhupada writes, Tad Bhagavasargo, that literary creation. A Bhagavasargo is literally a literary creation. That's what it means. A book. Which is meant to bring about a revolution in the misguided lives of this world civilization. Janada agha. Agha means sinful. Viplava. Viplava is literally means capsizing the boat. You know, a civilization is like this big boat, you know, going on the ocean, you know, and you think you're secure in the boat. But Bhagavatam and the whole science of bhakti and this society, this movement is meant to be revolutionary, capsizing the boat, you know, meaning that it challenges the very foundations of this misguided materialistic civilization. And with it, the foundations of all people who are living in that civilization and adhering to its false premises. So, why is it revolutionary? Because it does nothing but glorify Hari, you know, the name, form, qualities of Krishna. But it may be not very nicely composed. In other words, and Prabhupada recognized that. He says right in the Bhagavatam, I know this is my second language. You know, he's writing in English, which is what his spiritual master told him to do. And I know that he says it'll surely fail, he says. You know, but because it does nothing but glorify Hari, therefore I'm confident, you know, I'm going to continue to produce the book. You know, he just started with a book and in the first canto of chapter 5, and he's writing it. But he's going to produce it, and he produced it, and he dragged it. He took it all the way to America and was distributing on Broadway, trying to find bookstores. He will take it on consignment somehow or other, whoever took, the captain of the ship, you know. And that gave him confidence to proceed in the movement and, you know, the history. So the lesson of this verse is that our whole mission in life is to imbibe real knowledge, revealed knowledge beyond the range of this material world, transcendental knowledge, and allow it to bring about a revolution in our lives, you know, by embracing the principles, however radical they appear, however difficult it may seem to follow, you know, but at least have a plan to move to the point of following more and more strictly. And we'll experience along the way the great benefits, what to speak of the final, you know, benefit of going back to Godhead. So Isopanisad, like several of our books, like the Upadeshamrita, very short, no mincing of words, you know. He's going back and forth. Those who know the Lord who is without veins and so forth, you know. On the other hand, those who cultivate knowledge go to the darkest region of ignorance. So you decide where you want to go, you know, because there's a lot of suffering in the darkness of ignorance. And the greatest suffering is you're helpless. You don't know, you have no hope of deliverance, because everything you tried in your life has failed. It's all come to nothing. And that's, everybody goes through that. If they have no assets in Krishna consciousness, if there's no hope of one day going back to Godhead, then everyone must feel like their life is a failure. Now life is slipping away. My loved ones are here. There's a very graphic scene. It's in the third canto in Kapila Dev's teachings. He's describing the materialist and how they leave the body. You know, oh God, you know, there's my loving wife, you know, but you can't save me and my kids. And boom, you know, the Jamadutas are coming and they drag you out, describes the trip to hell, and all those animals you sacrificed to come to bite you, you know. You sacrifice animals trying to go to heaven. It's hair-raising. It's meant to really sober you up. Bhagavatam is serious business. And then it describes some of the tortures, you know. And after that, you know, your consciousness is all beaten down, you know, and you're ready to go into your animal body and go back up. It's described like that. Back up you go to the human form. So that's real life, and all of this is just a phantasmagoria. You know, nothing of this is going to save you. It's all just a distraction. It's Maya's trick to help you forget the real knowledge, and to also, you know, make you immune to it, so you think it's crazy. But actually the craziness is out there. The sanity is in here. Okay, it's 8:35. Any comments, questions? Darshan, Prabhu, speak in the mic, so we can hear you. Hold the mic in your hand. It's right in front of you. It's right in front of you.
Oh,
there you go. Thank you. Vision problem.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. You made a statement earlier that stuck in my mind through your whole talk. You said that the Vedas were the only purpose of the Vedas was to go to heaven. I don't understand why you said that.
I hope if I said that, I misspoke. There is a section of the Vedas called Karma Kanda. Kanda simply means canto. That's where the cantos come from. Kanda. It means this section of the Vedas which are have full, all kinds of sacrifices, austerities, mantras, and things, instruct you to worship this God, that God, and the purpose is to achieve a better life in your next birth, either on this plane or hopefully to go to a higher plane. You know, we talk about heaven. You know, that's not where God is, right? That's where Indra is. Indra is known as the master of heaven. And it's you live for a long, long time. There's idyllic situation, no climate change. You know, the weather is perfect. You know, and you have a strong, useful body for many, many years, thousands of years, even millions of years. And so you can imagine, if you really believe that, and it's true, it's a reality. You know, oh, let's do it. You know, I've got some money saved. Let's do some sacrifices, worship this and that. And there is a part of the Vedas that teaches that. And Krishna describes it in the Gita. There's 2 verses. Pushpitam Vacham. Is a very flowery language. You know. Now what's the purpose of that? Why would Vyasadeva do that? Doesn't it misguide them? And one of the purposes described is, well, okay, at least if you're referring to the Vedas, along with your worship of Indra and Chandra and Surya and Devi, there's also chanting of mantra to Vishnu. You know, Om is there. There's a lot of Om. You know, that's transcendental. So it keeps you within the Vedic paradigm. And so if you're in that regard, then when you come in contact with the real thing, you'll be more open to it because you already know about the Vedas. That's the whole idea. But Vasudeva basically condemns that. It doesn't work in Kali Yuga so well because people are so disturbed, they're just going to, you know, either they'll reject it wholesale and just go to complete ignorance, or they'll misuse the Vedas and think that's all there is. They don't graduate to the part of the Vedas that's called the Upasana Kanda, which teaches worship, you know, of God. And ultimately the essence of the Vedas, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Puranas. There's a whole development of the Vedic knowledge. It's very vast. But there is a part of it that'll just teach you to go to heaven. And if that's all you think there is, then you'll be made in this material world.
I didn't realize there was a difference between heaven and going to God.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Heaven.
Now I understand.
And we got the gods in heaven, the demigods. But we got Krishna in the Goloka Vrindavan. You know,
really?
like Vaikuntha. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, terminology. Anyone else?